Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, hello. It's 3 minutes after 1. Hello, PNC. Hello, hello, everyone. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. I see everyone coming in. Come on in. As you come in, why don't you go ahead and hit those hearts and share for me. Come on in. Glad to see everyone joining in on tonight. As always, glad to be able to come in. Sorry for the short delay. Hello to you. Hello to you. Hello, Max. Hello, Lady PNC. Glad in. Sorry for the short delay, but had some technical difficulties. But I'm glad to be on. Hello, Kelly. So I'm glad to be on. How is everyone doing tonight? Why don't you go ahead on and share. Playmaker, how you doing? Hello, James, how you doing? LaJona, glad to see you. Come on in. Why don't you go ahead on and share so we can see who's going to be on tonight. See if you're going to be inviting anyone in and where they're coming in from. Thank you for sharing. I see one share. So let's go ahead on and share on tonight so we can get started. I'm so glad to see everyone on tonight. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So I'm excited about being on tonight. So excited about being on tonight. Good evening, Tanita. Miss you today. So glad to be on tonight. Got a great discussion that we're going to have on tonight. Great discussion. So we're going to give a few minutes. If you're on for the first time, let us know that you're a first time into LeaderScope, and let us know where you're from. We want to welcome all of our first time LeaderScope. I'm a friend of leadership. So if you're on for the first time, let us know that you're on and where you're from. So come on in. We definitely welcome everyone in on tonight. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for giving me those hearts. I love to see those hearts. As I say, of course, those hearts are not for me. Those hearts are just your way of saying that you love leadership and that you're passionate about growing in leadership. So come on in. Again, if you're in for the first time, let us know that you're here for the first time and let us know where you are from. All right. We're going to be getting started with our discussion. Last week we actually talked about who's on your bus. That's what we discussed on last week. Who's on your bus? Yeah, who's on your bus? Hopefully everyone did some self-evaluation. Hopefully everyone took a look at who's on your bus. And maybe you asked the question even to yourself. Am I on the right bus, or am I in the right seat on the bus? And if you are a leader, am I driving? Am I still driving the bus? Am I driving the vision? Am I driving the mission? If you are a leader, are you the one that's doing the driving? Because if you are a leader and you're driving, you definitely got to make sure you have the right people on the bus in the right seat, because you can't afford to get out the driver's seat. So tonight, thank you for coming in. Tonight we're going to talk about making the turn. Making the turn. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight. Making the turn. And this actually came out of a couple of discussions that I had with a couple of persons this week. And I wanted to come in and share it with you all. Making the turn. How do you know when the area that you are leading is making the turn? How do you determine that? How do you determine that the area that you're leading is making the turn? How do you determine that those who are following you are turning in the right direction? How can you tell that? How can you tell that? What I basically want to do tonight, I basically want to kind of just share a scenario with you, and I shared this. It is important that at some point in your area, the area that you lead, the people that you lead, that you make a turn. That you make a turn. That you make a turn. There's at some point you've got to be ready to turn in a new direction. In a new direction. If you're going to be effective, if your area is going to go to the next level, you've got to be willing to make that turn. Now, the challenge is, for many of us as leaders, we want to see the immediate turn. We want to see that immediate turn. And of course, we don't always see the immediate turn, or we don't always feel as though we're making the turn. But here's what I want us to take a look at tonight, and at least ponder on tonight. Have you ever saw a cruise ship or some type of big ship out in the ocean? Have you ever saw the ship turn? I've taken a number of cruises, and I've always been amazed that at some point that ship made a turn in that water. Now, I couldn't really tell that it was turning. I couldn't stand on the balcony of a room, or stand on a particular deck on the ship and tell that it was turning. It's just that big. And whenever you are leading a big area, or your vision is big, sometimes with the naked eye you cannot see it turn. You can't see it making that turn. So the question becomes, how do I know that it's turning? How do I know that it's turning? Because the truth of the matter is, it's actually turning. It's really turning. It's really, really turning. Well, this is how you know it's turning. Just like the captain on that boat, on that ship, the captain is in a control room, what's called a control room. And in the control room, there are gauges. There are gauges that the captain and his crew is looking at all times. Those gauges have indicators, and those indicators is letting them know that ship is making the turn. Okay? You have the captain and the crew that's looking at the gauges, and the gauges have certain indicators that's communicating that the ship is making a turn. Now, for those of us who are standing on the deck, who's standing on a balcony, who are walking throughout the ship, we can't always tell that ship is turning. especially if it's a gradual turn. If it's a very gradual turn, we can't always tell. But that captain and his crew know that it's turning because it's looking at the gauges and the indicators. Here's where leaders tend to fail. Where we fail at when it's time to make the turns is the fact that we do not look at the gauges. We do not set the indicators to know when we're turning. So we're just like everyone else. We don't even know that we're turning. We don't even recognize that that we're turning, that we're making a shift. But when you have those gauges in front of you, when you have those gauges and they have the indicators, then you know that it's turning. And why is this important? This is important because you want to make sure that in order to set the course to success, set the course of effective leadership, that there's going to come a point where you have to be able to make a turn. You're going to have to be able to make a turn. You can't keep going in the same direction. You can't keep going in the same direction. At some point, as the leader, you have to be the captain. You have to have a crew that can look at those gauges and set those indicators. So once the gauges start to indicate we're turning, you know you're turning. But the challenge is the fact that we don't have gauges. So we're not gauging ourselves. We're not gauging our areas. We're not gauging our movement. We're not gauging ourselves, our movement. We don't have indicators. We're not setting certain marks. See, when a ship is out in the water, there's certain marks that they have. And when they get to that certain mark, they know that at that mark, that indicator starts to let them know you've reached that mark. But we don't do that in leadership. We just get this thing moving, and we think as long as we're moving, we're okay. As long as we're moving, we're okay. No, at some point, if you're going to be effective, you have to make a turn. Now, that's whether it's your area or that's either with you as a leader. At some point, you have to be willing to make a turn if you're going to be effective. So here's the question. What indicators is letting you know? What marks? That's the first thing. So let me go back. What marks are there to let you know it's time to turn? There should be a clear mark that says turn. There should be a clear mark that says it's time to turn. It's time to turn. You cannot keep going in the same direction. If you go in the same direction, you're going to run ashore. If you go in the same direction, you're going to run ashore. Now, once you see that mark, you know it's time to turn. So now, I know the marks. I have identified the marks. So now let me set the gauges for turning. Now I'm preparing to turn. Now, how do I know I'm turning? Because this thing is big. It's big. This is a big ship. This is a big ship. It's a big machine. So how do I know? Now I'm looking at all the gauges. Now the gauges are now informing me that there's certain indicators. And see, it's the indicators is where there's evaluation that must be done. And you're communicating that. Because you're not going to do some drastic turn. You're not going to take the steering and just make that shift. If you just make that turn all of a sudden, you can hurt yourself. You can hurt everyone. No, you got to set some indicators. You got to set each indicator, and you got to make that turn. When you look at that gauge, you're going to see, okay, we're turning. And it's going to be one indicator after the next. One indicator after the next. One indicator after the next. And that's how you gauge that you're turning and that you're becoming more and more effective. Again, the challenge is we're not looking at any gauges, so we don't know the turn. Or we're not looking at any marks, so we don't know the turn. We have no gauges in front of us. And we don't know the indicators. So we're moving straight. We're moving. And what happens is we run ashore. And what happens when we run ashore? We're hurting ourselves. We're hurting those who are following us. We're hurting our areas. We're hurting our organizations. The vision never comes to pass. Mission is never accomplished. Because now we've run ashore. When all along we miss marks. There's marks out there that's letting you know. Listen, you've got to be willing to pay attention to the marks. It's marks out there. It is marks out there. Pay attention to the marks. Pay attention to those marks. And when you see those marks, then you know it's time to turn. And when you start to make that turn, what are those gauges communicating? The gauges are speaking. The gauges are communicating. And when you're paying attention to the gauges, those indicators are letting you know that you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. And sometimes those gauges are going to let you know you need to turn a little stronger. You need to make a little shift here and a little shift there, a little shift here and a little shift there. Those indicators are communicating to you on how you're making the turn, how you should make the turn. But the indicators are still there to let you know you're still turning. So, you got to make the turn. Make the turn. Don't keep going straight. Don't run ashore. Don't run ashore. You can't run it. Don't run ashore. If you run ashore, you'll never accomplish your vision. You'll never be effective. You'll never be effective. So now let me bring that home to you. Here's a mark. If you're going to be effective, here's a mark. Things around you are changing every day. Your company is changing. Okay? Things are changing. Technologies are changing. That's a mark. When you see marks like that, when you see marks around you, technology is changing. That's a mark. So you may have to educate yourself a little more. Okay, when you start seeing marks in your company, in your organization, with different organizations, competing organizations. When you start seeing marks, that's the right time. That's letting you know that it's time to turn. Okay? Now, it is at that point you start to make that turn. What's the gauges? What are the gauges? What are the gauges? Look at your gauges. What are your gauges communicating to you when you start to make that turn? Okay? What are the gauges communicating to you? Here's what the gauges are communicating. The gauges are communicating is that you're becoming more and more knowledgeable of what's going to make you more successful. Okay? What are the indicators? Your indicators is setting those milestones that's going to help you be more effective. So, an indicator may be, I need to spend more time, I may need to spend more time reading. I need to spend more time working on my skill set. I may need to spend more time developing my skills. I may need to spend more time working with my team. I may need to spend more time in a specific area that's going to make me more effective. I may need to get to work a little early. I may need to stay to work a little later. I may need to do this. Those are indicators. So you set these indicators along the way, and you achieve each one of them. So set your indicators. You already know, you already see the marks. You already know what the marks are. You know the gauges. You're a part of the organization. You're leading the organization. You already know it. So you know what the gauges are. You have to set the indicators. So when you look at it, you see it turning. You see it turning. The indicators could be processes. The indicators could be procedures that you got to put in place to make that turn. Once you do that, then you see things starting to work. You see things changing. You see things turning. And it's turning to make it more effective, make you more effective. But if you just sit there and do nothing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to run ashore. You're going to run ashore. That's what a lighthouse is for boats. It's to let you know you're getting real close to the shoreline. You need to turn. So tonight is more about this being a lighthouse for you. This is being a lighthouse for you. Let you know that you can't run ashore. You got to make that turn. Okay? So, pay attention to the marks. Focus on your gauges. Or set your gauges. And then pay attention to the indicators while you're turning. Okay? Pay attention to your marks. Set your gauges. And then focus on the indicators as you're turning. Okay? And then you'll see you become more and more successful. Right? Any questions tonight? Any questions as it relates to this particular topic? Making the turn. Anyone have any questions about making the turn tonight? Right, keep hitting those hearts. Anyone have any questions? All right, if there's no questions about this topic, as always, every week, once you go ahead on and type in, thank you so much. Go ahead on and type in, I'm a friend of leadership. I'm a friend of leadership. If you have any additional questions as it relates to any topic with leadership, you know how to do it. You can go to our Facebook page and inbox me any additional questions about anything that has to do with leadership, and I will address the questions there. Okay. For any one-on-one counseling sessions, you can go to company website and send a request there, and we will schedule a time for me to sit down with you one-on-one. Now, I know I don't know if it was last week or week before last that I mentioned that I was going to share something with you all, but I want to share it tonight. You're welcome. I am going to, and hopefully you all would support. I am in the process of creating I'm a friend of leadership t-shirt, hashtag I'm a friend of leadership. As well, what will come with the shirt is a free hashtag I'm a friend of leadership journal. Because every Sunday that we come on LeaderScope, I would love for you all to take notes, but I want us to be able to share that I'm a friend of leadership, hashtag I'm a friend of leadership. So I will be getting orders in real soon, and I hope that you all would definitely support to spread the word so we can continue to grow and develop great leaders. So be paying attention. I will be again sharing the cost of those shirts with you real soon. Hopefully by next Sunday, I will have shirts available, or at least have the cost of the shirts, but you will be getting a free journal with the shirts. So we're in the process of doing that as well. All right. So thank you all so much. You already do a wonderful job in supporting LeaderScope and Cotton and Company Leadership Group by coming on every Sunday. And I am so grateful to each of you coming on. Thank you all so much for coming on. You do not have to come on, but you come on, and I work extremely hard to be very relevant to leaders and to help nurture. I was sharing with someone the other day, I really want to change the fact that I communicate developing leaders, because I don't believe I develop you. I believe that my assignment is to help nurture you as leaders, because you can't develop something that's already created. You are already created to be effective leaders. I'm just here to help nurture you as a leader, effective leader. So I really thank God for you, for each of you. Please help spread the word. Go to the page and share it with others, so we can make sure that we have some wonderful leaders in all of our organizations across this country. All right. Thank you all so much. God bless you. I believe in you. I'll be chatting with you real soon. Have a wonderful week, everyone.